Hello friends, Lorraine here, and my channel is Lo's Life and Lessons. Thank you for stopping by and spending a few minutes with me today. And if you're new here, I welcome you. I hope you will consider subscribing to my channel. We talk about all kinds of things here. Today, we're going to talk about how things have changed for women in the last 100 years. 100 years ago, women were not allowed to do many different things. Now, in my own life, I remember as a young married couple in the early 1970s, my husband and I went to the bank to negotiate a loan for a mortgage for our first home. And the young man behind the desk who was interviewing us and looking at our resources and our assets at the time did not have any children. I was working full-time as a registered nurse. My husband was employed full-time. And the young man asked me, though, what if I get pregnant? How could he count on that salary of mine? I couldn't even believe it at that time. If I recall correctly, I think he decided not to include my salary in our assets, and he granted us a mortgage based on only my husband's salary. That's the way it was in the early 70s. During all those years we were together, we had joint credit cards, a joint gas card, and everything was joint, the joint bank account, everything. But when we separated in the mid-1980s, I remember this feeling of joy and independence and relief that I was able to get my own credit card, my own gas card, and sign a lease in my own name for myself and my children. But 100 years ago, there were even more things that women were not allowed to do, and here are just a few of them. First of all, women were not allowed to vote. It was understood that women did not have the time or the energy or indeed maybe the intellectual capacity to understand politics and to make a choice about who was going to run the government. Plus, they were so busy looking after their home and their children and their husbands that they did not have time to occupy themselves with such concerns. They were not allowed to compete in the Olympics. They were not allowed to smoke in public. Of course, their husbands could smoke in public. Now, maybe women were allowed to smoke in the privacy of their homes, but they were not allowed to smoke in public. They were not allowed to wear pants. When a woman got married, she was not even given the option of keeping her maiden name. Now, these days, it's kind of optional. You take your husband's name or keep your maiden name. But 100 years ago, that was not an option. You took your husband's name, and that's all there was to it. In fact, it was very much that the two became one in all kinds of financial and legal ways. The woman had no right to have her own passport as a married woman. She had no right to be able to buy property of her own as a married woman. It would all be joint. A woman was not allowed to file for divorce, even in situations where she was badly physically and or mentally abused. In fact, there were a few states that allowed a certain number of beatings in situations of conflict. It was perfectly all right to a certain extent. A woman could not refuse her husband sex. If she wasn't in the mood, or she wasn't in the mood one too many times, her husband had the right to rape her. Spousal rape was not a crime 100 years ago. A woman was not allowed to join the military. Now, a woman in the workplace, a married woman, of course, if she got pregnant, she could not be guaranteed that her job would be held for her. She could immediately be fired without any recourse at all. A woman was not allowed to go shopping unescorted. She needed to be escorted by a man, be that her husband or perhaps her father or her brother. There are probably many more things that a woman was not allowed to do 100 years ago. So even though we are far from perfect equality in 2022, we certainly have come a long way. Young women of today may not realize all these limitations that were part of a woman's life 100 years ago. So yes, let's be grateful and let's keep on going to get more rights and more equality, not only for women, but for everybody in the world. Thank you for spending some time with me today. I really appreciate it. I love you all so much, and I'm so happy that you enjoy my channel. Take care. I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye for now.